Josh, thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast.
What's up, brother? Thank you for having me.
Dude, I'm super excited about this episode. One of the things I'm really grateful for with this show is we get to have a lot of really interesting guests on that have a ton of ambition in their respective fields, but we have not really covered some of the topics that you and I are going to speak on. And obviously, I'm just really pumped to hear your personal story and how, you were someone I look at and you're pursuing a career in helping people. And I think that's so admirable. So I'm really pumped to have you on the show, hear more about your story and the awesome stuff you're working on with Blokes.
Dude, I'm pumped to share it, man. It's good to be with you.
Let's go, man. Yeah, I think the first thing I'd love to do before we really dive into Blokes is hear more about your personal background. I know we've been able to connect at some events in the fitness space. We have a ton of really strong mutual friends, Eric Hinman being one of them, who's come on the show a few times. People are very familiar with Eric, but I want to hear about your background because I know you've referenced sports and different things you've done growing up, but tell us a little bit more about who you are and your background prior to getting into business.
Yeah, man. Listen, at first and foremost, I'm a dad and I'm a husband, and
Mhm.
it's something that I'm probably the most proud of, and it's something I take a lot of pride and joy at being. My wife and I, we've been married for 8 years, and I have a little boy who's 2.5. His name's Rowdy, and he's rowdy. He's very rowdy.
Let's go.
And my daughter, who's 5.5, is her name's Lennon. But professionally, I've been in healthcare for pretty much my whole career, 15 years, and I bounced around from job to job before that. But my first real deep dive into a real job into healthcare was with a company called Stryker, so a big med device company, and I was in the OR for pretty much that whole time, and I covered the Colorado territory, and then I decided to see if the grass was greener and become an entrepreneur in healthcare, and it certainly was greener. It was definitely, it came with more gray hairs, but it's been a fun ride being an entrepreneur. I've done everything from owning and operating compounding pharmacies, labs, to regenerative medicine clinics, i.e. stem cells. And this journey of Blokes is the first time where like my life kind of ran into one another in healthcare, because I've always been treating things and been in healthcare where I was never really a patient. But this one instance was like the first big head-on collision of my personal struggles with my health and my personal struggles with the healthcare system. And I say this, fuck sick care all the time, but like our system has failed us when it comes to preventative or proactive care. Done a great job at fixing bones and ligaments and major ailments, but we've really not done a good job to society when it comes to just owning your own care. And I think that's kind of what our bread and butter is, allowing the consumer to get in the driver's seat. And we just happen to believe that hormones are such a catalyst in that decision. And from the time you go to sleep, from the time you wake up, in every daily function. So that's what we specialize is treating hormones.
Incredible, man. It's so cool to really dive into this topic with you as someone who has so much experience in so many different like elements of this industry. So you talk about, the grass being greener. Obviously, I really do want to dive into Blokes and the benefits of your blood work and understanding your hormone levels and all those things. But I love entrepreneurship and business, and many of the people that listen to this show are into that as well. So I'm curious, like you say the grass was greener. What are some things that you noticed in the transition period from working for a company to owning your own and kind of going off on your own as an entrepreneur that enticed you? And obviously, you talk about the hardships too. I'd love to hear a little bit more perspective there.
Yeah, for the record, man, I love business. I love entrepreneurship. My hammer just happens to be healthcare. So like anytime it crosses over into other sectors, I love talking about it. And I will tell you, man, it was a pretty surreal and tough decision to leave a company like Stryker. It's top two medical device firms in the world, Fortune 500 company. I was making probably somewhere in the range of like $350,000 a year in my late 20s, which is damn good. And I remember my parents going, "Dude, what are you doing? Like you're set up. Like you're moving up the manager track record, and you're doing a really good job." And I was just like, "Man, I just feel like I'm leaving something on the table." And
Mhm.
I see these guys in the OR, they're running their own distributorship, and I see them like driving nice cars and, doing all this fun stuff with their doctors. Um, and I wanted to just get a taste of it. So that's really what happened. And, there's been so many different things to like point out, like what a difference it's been. But like, going from a big company that is very, very corporately driven to being your own boss is it's a blessing. It's a curse because I don't think I really knew what I was getting into before I did. And I'll tell you, man, it was the hardest, best decision that I ever made. It was also super, super challenging. I didn't think it would be that hard. And for the first 6 months of leaving Striker, I didn't make a single penny, dude. Like I didn't have a single dollar coming in my bank account. And I remember I was sitting down with my mentor at the time who had his own med device distributorship. And he goes, I said, dude, I'm going to get unemployment. Like I can't keep going like this. I'm starting to dip into my savings, like not a little bit, a lot. And he's like, dude, don't go get unemployment. Your mindset's going to change. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, well, you're going to start giving in and you're going to start going back to your old ways. You got to have that hustle. You got to have that grind. You got to taste that bitter before you get the sweet. And he was right. Like within 30 days, all of a sudden I got my first check. It wasn't much, but it was a little bit, and it gave me more motivation. And then one check led to two and two and four, and it just kept compounding. So for me, it was just a big change. It was an amazing change, but it was also hard.
I'm so glad you share that because I think that's something that especially my generation needs to hear. I think with the all the different things we have access to, all the resources, which are huge blessings, we can also get quickly deterred or unmotivated because we don't see that instant success. But to hear your perspective of someone who was having a ton of personal success in a job and a career, then leave and have to go through that tough stretch period where you're having to figure things out, I think just that level of perseverance is really admirable and also encouraging for someone like that hasn't hit that yet to continue to strive and continue to chip away, knowing that there is something to be accomplished, but you got to continue to work for it.
Yeah, man, I feel like we've lost a little bit of that in society. I mean, everything now is technology based and app based, and people need to realize very few does it come easy to. And if they're showing you that it is easy, they're lying. There's always a struggle in anybody going on their own as an entrepreneur. I mean, it's no different than lifting weights or working out. You're not going to see the gains that you thought you would see day one. It takes time, but stay with it, and usually it always works out. I mean, I have a saying, it always works out one way or another. And so far I've been pretty right on that.
So good, man. I'm curious, where did your initial passion for like the healthcare system come from? Like what made you drawn into that particular area? Because you talk about your love for business could be applied to anything, but you choose, healthcare as your hammer. Where did that initial desire or interest come from?
Dude, full transparency, it was the money. I was living in Chicago. I was playing rugby for the Chicago Lions, and I was just like literally bouncing from job to job to try to play rugby at a high level. And financially, I was just getting kicked in the face. And I knew a couple buddies from college that played football at the school I went to, Northern Iowa, and were working for med device companies. And they're like, man, I'm doing really well. I'm six figures. And at that time, I was like, damn, that's a big deal. And so that was the initial attraction, just honestly. But then you realized when you got into the culture and you realized that not only was there money to be made, but you were helping people. You were helping a lot of individuals, and you could see those results firsthand. For me, the culture of getting into Striker was awesome. It was a lot of ex-athletes, whether they were professional football players, the baseball players, rugby guys like me. It was a mindset that really attracted to me, and it was like a community of guys that I hung out with basically my whole entire life. And now there was this career opportunity in it. Healthcare is a big, web. There's so many things that are tied to it. But at the end of the day, what I've learned, especially at Blokes, is the most important thing is the patient. And are we consistently and always trying to improve that patient's life? And I know we're doing that here. I can't say that with everything in healthcare, but I know we're doing that here.
It's really special that you're able to have that hand on that particular element of the business. I think it's I think it's cool. I think there's a we don't have to go super deep here, but I think there is this negative relationship with people desiring money. And there's a lot of people who like obviously are trying to increase their wealth and their income, but they're also like so many people that are like, you shouldn't be money driven, you shouldn't, focus only on that. And I think as long as your heart's in the right place, I think trying to earn more money is not a bad thing at all because it gives you more opportunities to then help people, pour into people, build businesses that make a direct impact and a positive benefit to other people's lives. And so I think it's all within the confines of where your heart is. But I love what you said though, as you get into this, you're able to see this whole industry and where it is and really kind of make changes and really do the things that you feel called to make that experience better for customers. With that being said, like I would love to talk more about Blokes specifically and how it kind of differentiates itself within the market of other companies that you've either worked with or seen in the space.
Oh man, I feel like we're vastly different than traditional healthcare. I mean, I live here in Nashville, which is literally the mecca of healthcare. You have the biggest hospital system, for-profit hospital system that was founded here, HCA. And I talk to people all the time and they go, "Oh, you came here for healthcare." And I said, "No, we're kind of against the grain of what you guys do. No offense, but we're not traditional healthcare. We are an inch wide, a mile deep when it comes to preventative care. Like our goal is to treat the patient from symptoms to hormones to treatments, but to use medicine to our advantage, to not fall into the sick care system and the broken healthcare system. It's truly about empowering individuals to just live a healthier life. And that's why we rolled out our supplement line, because we've always been talking about supplements, but that plays a very vital role in health. And whether it's hormones to supplements to labs to weight loss, we believe that that's the key to optimization. So, you know, we're an inch wide, a mile deep into optimization, which I think has become a special term in wellness, but in healthcare, it's become a niche in terms of how we treat and how we empower patients.
Absolutely. And what does Blokes mean and why do you kind of come up with that name? Because I think that kind of sets the standard for the business.
Yeah, so one of the things that we talk about a lot is testosterone. And we knew we were going to be talking about that topic a lot. We knew we were going to be talking about sexual function, erectile dysfunction, things that are affected by that. And we wanted to be somewhat cheeky about it, but also scientific. And for those who don't know what a bloke is, it's basically slang for man, and it's commonly used in Australia and England and New Zealand. And coming from a rugby background, we use that word a lot. But it was really just trying to be unique in the space and approach it in a fun and cheeky way. Because when you hear an Aussie say bloke or just talk in general, it's always fun to listen. And I felt like within this specialty, it was really the direction was about getting jacked and kicking ass and while we like that side of it, what we really enjoy is just connecting with men and all shapes and all sizes and just allowing them and empowering them to live the best versions of themselves. So it's a
Dude,
cheeky way to do it.
I love that, man. And I love that. And you through that, kind of idea and different things, you've been able to partner with some incredible people. Obviously we talked about Eric Hinman, and he's someone that I look up to and I love in the space. I think he just does things the right way. He gets behind brands that he truly believes in, and everything that he says is super powerful. But even beyond him, you've been able to, I guess, draw a lot of interest from some really awesome people in the space that have gotten behind just believing in the mission of what you guys are doing. How have you been able to attract those high quality people to get behind Blokes and obviously believe in the mission of helping people and taking this super seriously?
Yeah, I mean, Eric is a gem, man. He's a diamond in the rough, and he honestly, I credit him for so much of our direction when it comes to affiliates, brand ambassadors, and Eric says brand builders, and he is a brand builder, but it's spot on. Like, I'm friends with Pete from Sisu. I don't know if you've had him on the podcast, but you should. But but he's always said, listen, man, my mantra on anybody that's coming on with a brand is it's a fuck yeah or it's a fuck no. And not that that is our mantra, but guys are coming to us because they want to take their health to another level. Guys are coming to us because they maybe have noticed that they're a little bit sluggish, or they want to just like really deep dive into their health. I mean, we walk around, we lift weights, we run, we do all the right things, but how do we know what's truly going on in our body? We become that catalyst for that. We allow them to like pump the brakes a little bit and say, hey, let's focus on what's going on inside to then improve some of that output, to improve what you're doing in the weight room, improve your runs, improve your sleep, improve your stress. And I think it's been an easy segue for us to like attract the right people. I mean, I will tell you it's been very methodical and slow intentionally. Like we want to align ourselves with right brand builders because, as you know, at the end of the day, they're a reflection of you and vice versa.
Sure. That's a great approach, and that totally makes sense. Now we, like I mentioned to you before the show, like we have an awesome community we're building with the show and with AIM and the platform. And traditionally our demographic is relatively younger. Obviously we love all people that want to get behind this mission of having ambition, but I'm super curious because I think this is something that's not talked about a ton with people in their 20s and 30s of like getting your blood work done, looking at your levels. So first off, part one question is what age should someone start to consider taking this seriously and looking at their blood work and looking at their levels? And also, how important is it for like younger people to just be thinking about it as well, like in tandem to that?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it in a few different like periscopes. I mean, I think there is the general public is reactive based testing. I don't agree with that in any regard. So to me, at any point, it's a good idea. I guess the cadence and the volume of it might change as you get older, or maybe you're considering therapies, but anybody who's in their 20s should be getting at least an annual blood test to check what's going on. And we deal with patients that are one either afraid of knowing what's going on, and then we kind of have the opposite where they're like, man, I just really want to dial in my training, I want to dial in my health. I think you got to be more on the latter, because the reality is a blood test is so effective in so many different ways, but it is that one snapshot of telling you what's going on in your body at that time. And the reality is 99.9% of the time, we're not going to find something that's scary, but we do. I mean, every day we test patients. I mean, it's well into the hundreds a day now. Where we're usually just adjusting people's lifestyle to make them live better and healthier lives. But the reality is we do pick up things. So it's not a scare tactic, but I think if you really want to own your journey and you want to get ahead of something before it becomes a problem, blood is that gold standard.
Mm. That's awesome. That makes a ton of sense. And I think it's been interesting to see. Obviously, I haven't experienced maybe as much as some older people, but like even with the little stretch of COVID, how that instance, that moment in time has drastically just increased people's curiosity about health and wellness from a general perspective. Obviously, you still have people that aren't as interested, but what kind of trends have you seen, or where this thing is headed? Obviously, holistic medicine, people taking, the holistic approach more seriously, people trying to uncover longevity hacks and stuff. I actually have just been watching The Blue Zone. I don't know if you've watched that yet. Um,
Yeah, I know about it. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm very familiar with the Blue Zones.
Dude, you should watch
Is it
it.
good?
It's very good. It's very good. My mom's gotten really into that stuff, and so she actually is the one who encouraged me to watch it. And
Nice.
just things like that have become obviously more prevalent. How do you think that plays in nicely with what you guys are doing and where people are continuing to go as they want to just improve and become more healthy?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're one in another. I mean, I don't think we are in the position we are in without COVID. Um, Good and bad. I mean, first of all, we're virtual, we're telehealth. Telehealth didn't really make a dent in society until COVID happened. But I also think it was the first time in a long time that people actually stopped and looked and examined their health. And to me, it's not about prescriptions. It's sometimes just about nutrition and lifestyle and what are your daily habits, and are you getting out in the sun? Are you exercising, resistance training, all those things? All of a sudden, people are like, man, I think I need to start doing this stuff. So we just happen to be, running parallel to all these things that are happening outside of our control. But I think it's a good thing, and I think, I really hate our sick care system, and I hate the fact that, you can go into a doctor and you can sit down with them, and if you sit down with them, the average primary care visit somewhere between 9 and 12 minutes. If they're not talking to you about nutrition, if they're not talking to you about lifestyle, if they're not talking to you about weight training, weight management, then you probably should find another physician, because that's what we do and we believe in that. But our goal is to eradicate symptoms and just improve everybody.
I love that. I think that's a ton of, one of the things that you guys do a really good job with too. I want to give you guys some credit here is your socials are great. Like you guys, in
No,
terms
thank
of
you.
educating people and putting out content that's actually benefiting others, I think you guys do a great job. And that's, I think, I think there's a huge opportunity in the market for just people who can come in with real facts and real education. That's the real deal. And like actually bring those people up to speed with what's going on and the things that they've maybe been wired in their mind previously from society. Like how do we change that wiring? How do we give them the truth of you know why it's important to do your blood work, why it's important to look at your hormone levels, and like these are a list of activities you should be doing from a holistic approach to improve these levels. But make sure you get the testing done to prove the science behind it as well as actually aligned with what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of like the Lion King circle of life, man. It all goes with one another. And the reality is there's so many vices that are at our fingertips, and there's so many things around us that can affect, our mental and physical abilities, and we have to be cognizant of those things that are around us. And some things you can change, some things you can't. But I think we are right smack in the middle of like empowering people to do that.
100%. If you were someone who knows nothing about blood work, about hormone levels, and you go get your test done, say you use Blokes, for example, what are some of the basic things that you should know or just at least be aware of? I know I'm sure there's so many different things that you can uncover with a comprehensive blood work panel, but like maybe highlight some of the top things
Yeah.
that you're looking for where people have the most deficiencies or, places where they could improve their health.
Yeah, I mean, the first and foremost is to understand, like, somewhat of the system, and understanding that there are ranges, and there are ranges that you should actually be in, and those we call optimal ranges. Every time you sit down with your doctor, you should understand what those ranges are, and you should understand that the larger deviation is typically our sicker care, because most people are getting reactive based testing. But a lot of times primary care docs, internal med docs are not talking about optimal ranges. If you're sitting down with a physician and he says, let's just take testosterone, for example, because it's an important marker for both men and women. If he tells you you're on the low side of normal, well, you need to understand what that low side is, and what it's impacting in your life. So understanding the blood biomarkers and how they actually correlate with your symptoms is so important. But the other thing I would say too, for anybody that's listening, is anytime you're getting a blood draw, make sure you're getting a complete panel. I see this so often. I see guys at your age. I see guys at my age. I'm 41 years old, walking into their primary care doc, and they're having 4 or 5 biomarkers run. It is not it is not effective to typically treat that way. You want to get a complete panel done. Like, for example, our lowest, our entry level panel is 40 plus biomarkers, because that is that one snapshot at time where we can tell you everything that's going on in your body within those blood biomarkers. And bringing somebody back to get reactive based testing is just not effective, because every time your body's going to change. If you get a blood test in the middle of the morning versus the middle of the afternoon, they're going to show up differently. So I think just understanding ranges and optimization within those ranges, and getting complete blood panels is so important.
Sure. And for like most people, obviously, you guys as a brand, as a company, you personally, you talk about this idea of being, proactive, instead of reactive. But like, what are some things, if people are feeling off, like where are some areas in their life that, could trigger some sort of feeling where maybe they're not completely sick or they don't feel like terrible, but like maybe they're more exhausted, or what are some areas in your life you can be looking for to maybe
Yeah.
indicate you probably should get checked?
Yeah, I mean, two things that we talk about all the time is sleep and stress. Like, what do those look like? If you're we've seen guys come to us within a year and let's just take testosterone again, and their testosterone's great. And they come to us 6 months later and their testosterone's tanked. And it doesn't make any sense. He's like, I'm still lifting, I'm still doing the same things. Well, what's going on in your life that's stressful? Are you getting a promotion, or did you lose a job? Are you having some marital issues? So I always tell patients, like, hey, check your stress levels, check your sleep. Are you getting 8 hours of sleep every day? And then, there's just other things too that are like clear indications that things may be changing. Are you gaining weight? And are you gaining weight in areas that you didn't plan on it, like your midsection? Are your energy levels a little bit different than what they were a year ago? So sometimes I think it's just taking a nice hard dose of reality and looking yourself in the mirror and literally physically and mentally saying what has changed. I mean, there's obvious symptoms as you age, and we're seeing this more and more in a younger population where sex drive isn't there. Maybe we call it erection performance. Is that there? That obviously doesn't happen for women, but women also have libido issues when their hormones are off as well. So there's a lot of ways to look at it, but I think the first thing is just to you know be honest with yourself.
For sure. That's awesome. That's really cool insight. I want to talk to you guys about your smart supplements because this is something I know is relatively new with the company, but it's a genius idea. And I would love for you to first off just kind of share what smart supplements are and how you've been
Yep.
able to bring those to market and really bring a lot more value to the customer that is, pursuing those.
Yeah, I mean, smart supplements are exactly what they are. What they say, they're smart because they're based off of your biology and your biomarkers. So we are reacting towards what's going on in your body to make adjustments and supplementation guidance based off of your biomarkers versus a marketing ad or versus just a feeling. I mean, one thing that I think we do really well is we take that same feedback from your biomarkers and we pair it with symptomatic feedback. So is other things going on that maybe we didn't pick up within the biomarkers, but it's basically an AI system that allows us to generate supplemental recommendations based off of your personal blood biomarkers.
It's genius. It's super cool. I've seen Todd Anderson, I've seen Eric, I've seen a
Yep.
couple of different people talk about it. And I think what's interesting, one, the packaging is genius. It makes it super easy for the consumer
Yeah.
to take, your daily supplements. But the fact that there's customization to it is special. And I think a lot of people, especially in the supplement space, don't know where to go. They don't know what to take. They're like, I know I should be taking protein, like the basics, but the fact that you guys are able to really, show people what they should be taking, not only for their health, but them individually. Like what
Yep.
areas are you lacking? Where do you need to improve? And then obviously you guys have the scientific capability of, checking to see how those supplements are actually making an impact later on as you go back and get more work done, I think is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it in like a simple terms, like you put oil in your car when you need it. If it doesn't need it, you shouldn't put it in, and you should treat your body, your temple the exact same way. I mean, we should address some of these things are very, very minimal, but can be addressed very easily. And some of those minimal things can lead to bigger things. And I will tell you, I have just personally with a lot of different patients seen the needle move symptomatically in biomarker feedback with just supplementation. It's blown my mind. So I'm a big believer in it. I've always been on the RX side where it's like, hey, go right to the RX. But when I've seen the changes, the literally life improvements that have been made just through precision-based supplementation, it made me a believer.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible. Now, obviously, Blokes is doing an incredible job of serving primarily men. You guys also have an option, an outlet, an avenue for females, and that's called Joy.
Yep, yep. We couldn't leave the ladies out. My wife was getting antsy when we were doing all this for the men, and she went through the program herself on the bloke side and realized, wow, we need to help women as much as we do men. And then you realize women are just as neglected. And OBGYNs are 1 in 5 of them are trained in perimenopause and menopause. Very few of them are trained in terms of optimization. And it's become a niche on that side as well. And it really is a brother sister company. Um, and it's fun to be in, man. It's so much fun.
That's incredible. I'm curious, how is it working with your wife? Because I
Haha.
I have a lot of friends that
Well,
are influencers and they work, do social media with their partner, but like from a business standpoint, like growing companies, how's that dynamic?
yeah, dude, it's changing every day. I will tell you, we work really well together, and I think we complement each other pretty well. I still have her proof my emails when I send an important one. She's much better at copywriting than I am, but we both share the same passion and love for what we're doing. We both really enjoyed, helping others. And it would be really weird if we didn't have such a game-changing experience in our personal lives to not share this with the world, because we credit these companies that are now our third and fourth babies, for saving our marriage, changing our life. I mean, I've lost 50 pounds since starting this company. She's got her life back, lost 50 pounds. I mean, and those are like real changes. And it's not easy all the time. I mean, she calls me asshole at least, 3 or 4 times a day. Um, but it also is like, it's a really great working relationship. And for me, man, I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else, because we trust each other to our core and we literally have the same vision. I mean, sometimes you vary in how you're going to get there,
Sure.
but that's why you have honest conversations and you figure out the best pathway.
That's incredible, man. I'm excited to see just the continued growth on both companies, but that's
Me
amazing
too.
that you guys are able to have that dynamic with each other, but both share that passion for helping people and bringing such a honest, just truthful element of light to this industry that needs it so desperately.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more.
It's incredible. What are some exciting projects or goals that you may have personally or with the companies, as we close out the year and even into 2024 that are kind of relevant? I know smart supplements is something I'm sure you guys will be spending a lot of time on, working on, but are there any other exciting projects that you want to share or talk about?
Man, we're going to be laser focused on just closing out the year, well. And as you know, man, every business has its own, ups and downs, and I'm really laser focused on like dialing in the user experience, the user interface, process on the front end and the back end. It's not sexy. It's actually the least sexy thing, but I think it's what helps us retain customers the longest. But just laser focus on enhancing that customer journey. Um, we are in the process of talking to capital investors. We've been, laser focused on being self-funded, but we also see the opportunity and the obstacles by not having that capital partner. So we're hoping that, in the next 60 days or so, we close out a round of capital.
Dude, let's go. That's amazing. That's exciting. It's always fun to just be very present and like understand what needs to be done right now, but also see the big picture. And I think that's what really successful entrepreneurs are able to do is have that balancing approach of seeing both views as you continue to move forward and build the brand.
Yeah, man, I think I've always been very humble at admitting I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know. But I do know at the end of the day, the most important aspect of this is the patient or our customer, and whatever we can do to ensure that they're being taken care of, and from a RX perspective, from a service perspective, we have to do. But also that comes with some money sometimes, and tech systems and all that fun stuff. But the other thing too, man, like I'm just like really honed in on our community, like from a perception standpoint too. Like I really am laser focused on finding the right people to help build this brand. More Erics. I mean, he there's no other Eric, but
For
finding
sure.
finding guys like Eric, whether it's in different sectors or A-list type people, like we're all about that right now.
It's awesome, man. And outside of work, man, how is your personal training going? Are you training for anything right now or just kind of staying healthy and working out when you can? How do you kind of go about it right now?
Dude, I was just texting Todd Anderson and I was like, man, I'm kind of bored, bro. Like I need to do something. And I was like, man, I kind of want to climb Everest. And he's like, oh, that's kind of gnarly. He's like, how about you start with a half marathon? I've never ran a 5K. I've never ran a 10K. So I am going to start doing I'm going to start training for a half marathon, which
Nice.
is pretty easy to a guy like you. But I've always been a
Man.
rugby guy. Like I run into people. I don't run. But I will tell you, man, like I've really just enjoyed getting back in the gym and like in a very intentional way. And I'm doing CrossFit style workouts, 2, 3 times a week. And just my commitment to myself is movement every day.
I love
So it could be honestly like yesterday I went for an hour go ruck walk. Here in Nashville we have a lot of hills, so there was a lot of elevation, but just some type of movement. So short goals is to do this half marathon without killing myself, but honestly, just committing to the lifestyle, committing to movement.
That's awesome, man. I love it. Yeah, you'll crush that half marathon, man, and then we'll see you up on the top of Everest here soon.
Yeah, dude. I honestly, my wife is like, "Would you quit talking about that?" I'm like, "No, I'm gonna do it." She's like, "No, you have kids." I'm like, "I know." So
Take
we'll
it with
see.
you.
Yeah, I was like, babe, like I've always regretted not doing something that I wanted to do, and this is like, there's not many things that I don't actually know if there's anything at this point. Like I've always, if it was within reason, it was, legal. I've done it, and this is probably Everest is one of those that I want to check off.
Dude, come on, man. I love it. That's
Do
awesome. I
it
love that.
together.
Dude, I'm in, bro. Listen, I would love to do that too, man. It's super fun. Yeah, I don't know. I got to figure out my next thing. I'm currently training for, we're calling it Project 7, but I have a friend who's a two-time cancer survivor, and he was
Oh
given
wow.
7% chance of living past 12 months if he went through all the chemotherapy that the doctors were, going to give him. And he said, I'll take my chances. And so to honor that,
No shit.
he's an absolute savage. And he asked me if I do this with him, but it's 7 miles, 700 pull-ups, 700 push-ups, 700 squats with a 20-pound weight vest on. So we're gonna do that in November.
Dude, can you please share that? I don't know if you guys are putting like a little movement behind it, but that's amazing, man. We'd love to share that amongst our crew. I think that's so he was given a 7% chance.
Yeah, so well, he was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 13 or 14, went through all the chemo, was, on that, I think for around 6 months, beat it, was on remission, or I don't know all the technical terms, but was, getting back to life, getting back healthy, went back for blood work for testing, and it came back even stronger. And the doctor said second time he got cancer, told him that it's really unfortunate, but since it grew so
Jesus.
drastically and so aggressively that he would only have a 7% chance of living past 12 months
Wow.
if he went through the chemo. And so this dude is an incredible guy. So cool
Dude,
to have
that's
him in my life.
gnarly.
Yeah, man.
Man, that gives me like little hairs standing up. I love that cause, man. And yeah, good luck. That sounds
Dude,
hard. I do it. I'll try it.
dude, let's go. Well, that's part of it's cool. You guys are very community driven, obviously, with the show and the things we're trying to do. I think there's a lot of alignment, but we want more and more people to just do hard things and push themselves and like
Good.
not take life for granted. And it's, I think that ties just kind of as we wrap this episode up, just so nicely with what you guys are doing and trying to just, help people understand that when you take things for granted, bad things happen. And like you should be proactive, you should be optimizing, you should be improving. And it's not about being perfect, it's about doing the best you can to be the best you can, to not only for yourself, but to show up for the people around you. And so it's really cool what you guys are doing.
Yeah, man. There's a quote I say on a very, very regular basis. A healthy man has many wishes, an unhealthy man has one.
Mhm.
And you got to prioritize your health and you got to own that journey. So um that's allowed me to say I'm committed to movement every day. I'm committed to owning my journey in health and taking it seriously because I'm 41 and I have a 2.5-year-old son. When he's 25, dude, I want to be charging with him. I don't want to be getting pushed around in a wheelchair. If we're going skiing, I'm leading, I'm charging with him, and if we're going out and having fun, I'm going to have fun right there with him.
I love that, man. You got to watch the Blue Zones. You'll see those people are like 100 years old riding
Dude,
horses.
but think about that. The average what life expectancy for a man in the States is like 76. If you knew you had another, so I'm 41. If I was going to live to 106, would you live differently? Would you live better? Would you live worse? Like who knows? But I can tell you this. Um, I'm living like there's no tomorrow.
Dude, come on. That's awesome. I love that, man. But dude, this has been such a fun episode. I've really enjoyed hearing more about Blokes, your story, and just the passion behind why you guys are so excited to bring this information and these resources to people. As we wrap this up, I love just kind of leaving off with some sort of advice question if you want to share anything. But I would love to hear you've had a jam-packed career before making the transition to entrepreneurship, and then obviously now you are building this incredible brand and in a really cool space that I'm super passionate about. But what is one piece of advice that you could maybe share with our audience of something you've learned along your journey, whether it's business related, health related? I just want to give you kind of the freedom to share some nuggets or some wisdom as we wrap this episode up.
Yeah, man. I mean, well, number one is prioritize your health, but also just be relentless in your pursuit. I don't care what that is. You know, there's nobody that is going to believe in you more than you. And you have to be your biggest advocate because, at the end of the day, it's just you. And I will tell you everything that I've done physically, mentally, work-wise, personal-wise, like I was relentless in that pursuit of pursuing it. And I think if more people were that way, they'd find sometimes it's a grind, sometimes it's hard, but it's the most rewarding.
Come on, man. That's so good. I was having a conversation with one of the guys in the house here, Austin Armstrong. He's incredible. Like, dude works so hard. He's so focused. He's so creative. There's so many talents. But one of the things we were talking about is like, why would you ever shortcut believing in yourself? Like, if there are decisions you're trying to make, and we don't have to make it financial, but like, obviously some things require financial investment to improve personally. Like, why would you not, if you have the means to, why would you not invest in yourself, whether it's your health, whether it's your business, whether it's your network, your experiences? These are things that make you better. And I think there's a wall. It's almost like you have to break through to get to that point where you believe that. Because there's a lot of fear with investment. There's a lot of fear with, doing something, going out and, getting outside your comfort zone. But to your point, just being relentless and never settling and also making sure you believe in what you're doing is so important. I just wish more people would just get behind that and just go all in on it.
Dude, 100%, man. Everybody, yeah, man, I just look back at my obstacles, my speed bumps, my success. It was at the end of the day, I have community and I have friends to support me, but you got to pat yourself on your back sometimes and just fucking go get it, man.
For sure. Dude, come on, let's go. Well, Josh, dude, this has been such a blast. I'm so thankful for you taking the time. I know you've a lot going on. You're running some awesome stuff, but thank you for coming on the show. And I'm really, really pumped for more people to hear this episode. As we wrap this up, man, like how can people find you? What are some ways that they can get more involved if they are interested and learn more about Blokes or maybe even potentially like looking into your services? Like what are some ways that they can do that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of love and communities happen at Instagram. Our Insta handle is at Get Blokes, so pretty easy. If they're really ready to deep dive, go to our website, blokes.co. And then for the ladies, where it's happening from a community standpoint is on Instagram. That handles at Joy Women's Wellness, and Joy is JOI. And then their website handle is choosejoy.co.
So cool, man. Let's go. Well, dude, thank you again from me to you, man. I really appreciate you coming on, guys. If you're listening to this, I would highly recommend checking out Blokes, checking out Josh's journey. He's a special dude, and he's got a good heart to help a lot of people. So, Josh, this has been a blast, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, brother.